Somewhere right now, in a barn, a basement, or leaning quietly behind a coat rack, there's a rifle worth more than most people's cars. The family that owns it has no idea. They think it's just Grandpa's old gun. By the time someone tells them otherwise, it may already be sold for scrap wood and parts. Today we're counting down 10 hunting rifles that quietly turned into six-figure collector pieces, and most owners still don't know what they're holding. Number 1 on this list has sold for over $400,000 at auction. Let's get into it. Number 10. The Winchester Model 21. Before Winchester became known for lever guns, they built one of the finest side-by-side shotguns ever made in America, the Model 21. Hand-fitted, hand-regulated, built one at a time by a small team of craftsmen in New Haven starting in 1930. What made it special wasn't marketing, it was tolerance. Each barrel set was individually lapped and regulated to shoot to the same point of impact, something factories today do with machines. But Winchester did entirely by feel. In the early 2000s, a standard grade 21 could be found for $2,000 to $3,000. Today, a clean standard grade brings $6,000 to $9,000. Higher grades, the Trap, Skeet, and especially the Grand American, routinely clear $30,000, and documented pigeon grade guns with factory letters have crossed $75,000 at auction. Check the receiver for the New Haven address and the serial number range. Anything built before 1960 tends to carry the strongest premium, since that's when the last of the original hand-fitting crew retired. Number 9. The Winchester Model 71. Only made from 1935 to 1957, the Model 71 was the final, refined evolution of the old 1886 lever action, chambered for the powerful .348. Winchester, a cartridge built for one thing, stopping big animals at close range and thick timber, because the .348 never caught on commercially the way the .30-30 did. Production stayed low, and most surviving rifles were actually used hard by Alaskan guides and Northwoods hunters rather than tucked away. 20 years ago, these were $500 rifles at gun shows. Today, a clean standard example brings $2,500 to $4,000, and the rare deluxe grade with checkered walnut and a pistol grip cap has topped $10,000. The tell is on the barrel. Look for .348 Win Cal stamped just ahead of the receiver, and a half-round, half-octagon barrel profile that no other Winchester lever gun shares. Number 8. The Griffin and Howe Custom Mauser. Before big manufacturers offered custom shop rifles, there was Griffin and Howe of New York, the workshop that essentially invented the American custom sporting rifle in the 1920s, building bespoke bolt actions on surplus military Mauser actions for wealthy hunters headed to Africa and Alaska. Every rifle was different: hand-checkered stocks, quarter-rib scope mounts of their own design, and a side-mounted safety that became their signature. These flew almost entirely under the radar until the last decade. A plain example sold for $1,500 in the early 2000s. Today, a documented G&H rifle with its original leather case brings $8,000 to $15,000, and pieces tied to well-known hunters or expeditions have sold north of $40,000. Look for a small oval Griffin and Howe New York medallion inlaid into the stock, usually on the underside near the grip cap. It's easy to miss if you're not looking for it. Number 7. The Savage Model 99 Takedown variant. The standard model 99 already has a following, but the takedown version, where the barrel separates from the receiver with a simple twist, no tools required, is a different animal entirely. Savage only built takedowns for a limited window before the mechanism was dropped as too expensive to produce. These were the ultimate travel rifle for their era, small enough to pack in a suitcase, which ironically means fewer survived in good condition. They went everywhere and got used hard. A rough takedown might have sold for $400 in 2005. A correct matching numbers example today brings $2,000 to $3,500, with rare pre-war calibers reaching $6,000 or more. Check for the takedown screw just forward of the receiver ring. A standard 99 won't have one. Number 6. The Colt Sauer Grand African. Built briefly in the 1970s and 80s, this was Colt's answer to Weatherby and Winchester's big-bore rifles, a joint venture with German maker J.P. Sauer, chambered in .458 Winchester Magnum and built specifically to sell to American hunters heading to Africa. Production numbers were tiny compared to anything else on this list, and because Colt discontinued the line relatively quickly, most hunters today have simply never encountered one. These were $1,200 rifles as recently as the early 2000s. Today, a clean Grand African brings $4,000 to $7,000, and rifles with an accompanying factory box and papers have sold for over $12,000. Look for Colt Sauer roll marked on the barrel, along with the Grand African designation. The checkered ebony forend tip is another giveaway no other rifle in this price range shares. Number 5. The Winchester Model 70, Super Grade pre-1964. Everyone's heard of the Model 70. Far fewer know that Winchester quietly changed the manufacturing process in 1964, switching from machined forgings to cheaper stamped and cast parts to cut costs. Collectors call anything before that change pre-64, and the difference in fit, finish, and feel is immediately obvious once you handle both side by side. The Super Grade, the top trim level, with checkered walnut, a jeweled bolt, and a hand-polished action is the one to watch for. 20 years ago, these were $800 to $1,200 rifles. Today, a correct pre-64 Super Grade brings $3,000 to $6,000, and rare chamberings like .300H and H or .375H and H have crossed $12,000. Check the serial number against published pre-64 cutoff charts and look for the Super Grade script stamped on the floor plate. Number 4. The Weatherby Mark V, German-made. Roy Weatherby wanted the strongest bolt-action money could buy, so in 1958 he had it built by master gunsmiths at J.P. Sauer and sewn in Germany. The result was a 9-lug action, an enormous number of locking lugs compared to a standard bolt gun, making it, by most measures, the strongest sporting rifle action ever put into commercial production. Production shifted to Japan in 1972, and while those later rifles still shoot beautifully, collectors draw a hard line at the German-made guns for their hand-fit actions and deeper polish. A German Mark V sold for around $700 in the early 2000s. Today, a correct example brings $2,500 to $5,000, and rifles from Weatherby's own early custom shop with figured walnut and engraving have reached $15,000 or more. Look for the Sauer and sewn Eckernförde Germany barrel stamp alongside the Weatherby name, and check for the diamond-shaped inlay at the pistol grip, a Weatherby signature detail carried through decades of production. Number 3. The Purdey Hammer Ejector double rifle. James Purdey and Sons, founded in London in 1814, is one of the oldest and most respected names in the gun trade, and their early hammer ejector double rifles, built before hammerless actions took over the market, are now among the rarest pieces a collector can find, simply because so few were built in the first place. Every rifle was made to a single customer's exact measurements, hand-regulated, so both barrels struck the same point of impact, and finished with case-hardened color that no modern process fully replicates. In the 1990s, a rifle like this might have sold for $10,000. Today, a documented example in working condition brings $60,000 to $120,000, and pieces with verified ownership by a known hunter or aristocrat have exceeded $250,000. The barrels will carry the Purdey name, along with London proof marks, and the hammers themselves visible on top of the action are the single clearest identifier, since later Purdey rifles moved away from that design entirely. Number 2. The Westley Richards Drop Lock double rifle. Westley Richards patented the drop lock system in 1897, a mechanism that lets the entire lock assembly drop out of the rifle by hand with no tools for cleaning or repair in the field. It was a genuinely clever piece of engineering, and it became the calling card of one of England's most respected gunmakers. These rifles were built for exactly the kind of hunting where a broken rifle 1,000 miles from a gunsmith could be fatal African safaris chasing dangerous game. As recently as 2005, a working drop lock might have sold for $15,000. Today, a correct example in a strong, dangerous game caliber brings $70,000 to $140,000, and rifles with documented safari provenance have sold for well over $200,000. Look for the hinged, removable side plates, press the release, and the lock should come free in your hand. No other major English maker's standard rifle does this. Number 1. The Holland Holland Royal Double Rifle. At the very top sits the rifle every other maker on this list was, in one way or another, trying to compete with. Holland Holland, founded in London in 1835, built the Royal as their flagship, a bespoke double rifle requiring well over 1,000 hours of hand labor, with barrels individually regulated so both shots land in the same spot at typical hunting distances. These rifles were carried by presidents, maharajas, and the most famous professional hunters in history. A Royal built for a well-documented owner isn't just a firearm. At that point, it's a piece of hunting history with a paper trail. A standard Royal in a common caliber sells today for $60,000 to $90,000. Engraved deluxe versions reach $150,000 to $300,000. And the rarest documented examples, tied to famous original owners, have sold at auction for over $400,000. The giveaway is the treble grip action design and the gold-lined cocking indicators on top of the action details, unique to the Royal line that no other maker has ever been permitted to copy. That's the list. 10 rifles, most of them hiding in plain sight in gun safes, closets, and estate sales across the country, waiting for someone to recognize what they actually are. If you've got one of these, or think you might, don't clean it, don't refinish it, and don't sell it to the first person who offers cash. Get it in front of someone who actually knows what they're looking at first. Which one surprised you the most? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.